Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our inspirational interview series. I'm Hannah Levin with Heartfelt Wellbeing, Yoga, and Ayurveda. And I am super thrilled to have Kate King back again today. And she's going to be sharing with us her new book, about her new book, The Radiant Life Project, which I just got in the mail. And so I'm so excited to be able to hold this while talking with Kate today. And I really look forward to reading it. So this is called The Radiant Life Project. And then it says, Awaken Your Purpose, Heal Your Past, Transform Your Future by Kate King. This is right up our alley here, what we do in this group. So let me introduce Kate to you if you are not familiar with her. So, Kate is a licensed professional counselor and board certified art therapist and radiant life coach. She lives in Denver, Colorado with her lovely family, who I had the joy of meeting last spring. So what Kate says about this book is that it's here to help us. So people are not as all right as they seem. The Radiant Life Project answers the call for large-scale repair by first cultivating radical individual well-being, a groundbreaking self-healing guide. This work activates inner radiance with Kate's unique and timely masterclass for personal transformation. This powerful book is based on Kate's lengthy clinical psychotherapy career, as well as her humble life learnings. Beyond intellectual stimulation and soul inspiration, Kate offers innovative tools and exercises to spark deep, sustainable healing. For therapy and personal development enthusiasts, this book is the missing piece to supercharge successful self-improvement. So I'm so excited to talk with Kate today. So let me welcome her here. Hi, Kate.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
Yay. It's wonderful to have you back. I think this is the third interview we've done. Right?
Yes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Always good to be here with you, Hannah.
Yes. Always wonderful to talk with you. So let's start with, where did the inspiration for writing this book come from for you?
With everything in my life, it always comes from the spark within me that is always kind of looking for expression and to radiate outward. And so I had this idea in my clinical practice before the pandemic, where I just had my hands full and I was seeing too many clients really for my capacity. And I just thought to myself, I wish I could give people a how-to manual for this stuff so that I could help more people and reach more people than I could in my practice alone. And then slippery slope of pandemic happened, found myself in really deep burnout and had to take a sabbatical from my practice. And that felt like the perfect, really generative time to write the book and funnel everything I know and everything I love and have practiced and learned into it. And so that's how the book came into being. It is a real masterclass of everything I've learned clinically and personally, all in kind of an accessible manual that I can hand out to as many people as are willing to read it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you took burnout and turned it around into a big offering to the world. I could see how that maybe could have gone in the opposite direction of being like, I don't have anything to give. I don't have anything to say. I'm just gonna like peace out here for a while. And so I think that speaks really highly to your creative spirit, really, like that is so alive in you, and that desire to create something and something of service is so powerful. So I just want to honor you for that.
Thank
um,
you. It did feel like a process of alchemy, which was really
mm,
powerful. And once I tapped into that alchemy of sort of transmuting and transforming the experience in the service of others, it built so much momentum and it just felt easy and flowing. And the burnout really kind of dissipated. And I felt this new zest and vitality around this work and
mm,
offering it in this format. So it's all about, I teach a lot about alignment and being in alignment with life and in the flow of life. And this book was written from that place of flow
Mm.
and alignment.
That's awesome. Yeah. So the book starts out with, so I was just looking over the table of contents, and it starts out with talking about alignment or authenticity is, yeah, the first chapter is the quest for authenticity, seeking a fresh face in a sea of masks. Will you talk a little bit about that? Like living in our world now where there's authenticity is kind of a cliche in a way.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, it kind of started out 10 years ago, my relationship with authenticity, when I wrote my first book, which is called The Authentic Mother. And at that time, authenticity was kind of a novel concept. And I was like, I think I was one of the first people to even start using it. People were like,
Mm.
what do you mean by authenticity? But in the 10 years between my two books, it has become kind of this cliche buzzword. So I like to meld it together with integrity in a concept that I've termed authentic integrity. And I think of authenticity as what is real, and I think of integrity as what is true. And
Mm.
so when you put together what is real and what is true in the present moment for you, and not to say that it will be what was real and true yesterday or tomorrow, it's really present in the moment you're in. That helps you connect with what I call the true north inner compass. And that is what guides us through life towards what feels most aligned with the essential being and the
Mm.
purpose and that flow that we're always trying to sort of get into, where life feels smoother and more meaningful and more purposeful. So I'm talking about authenticity and integrity as that vehicle toward true north and toward that compass for really sustaining your life force and making the most of it.
Mm. What do you see in terms of the differentiators? Like some of us are like I would say you and I are both like on a path in our lives to realize our potential to live into our full expression of being gifted this life. Our culture is very focused on numbing and disassociating. What do you think makes the difference to step into like as Mary Oliver says, you have a life. Just imagine that, you know?
Yeah, I think the pandemic itself was a really good example for how, when things get to a point of being so uncomfortable that they're almost intolerable, that's where people grow. And
Mm,
so the numbing only takes us so far. And you're right that we live in a culture where numbing of all kinds is really prevalent and normalized. And so I think that what happens when people find their way to this book or to any resource like your work, like your Vitality Circle, and all the other things you offer, is that they've probably gotten to a place in their life where they've just had enough of what's not working. They're tired of their own complacency. They are tired of the numbing. It doesn't feel right anymore. And maybe it's not working anymore. And so there's this igniting force that says, okay, we're done with the easy button and we're ready to just
mm,
do the work that feels alive. We're ready to honor the mind, body, spirit that we are in this life and figure out why something's not working and how to make it work better. So,
yeah.
unfortunately, sometimes it does take that tipping point of being so sick of your own stuff that you just rise. And I think we're getting there collectively as
Mm.
a society and as a world, because there is so much more talk about the kind of healing modalities that you and I offer than ever before. And it still might be small compared to, the large scale dysfunction out there, but I do think it's growing. I think there is an awakening.
I think so too, and it's very, very exciting. And I love the cross pollination. Like that. There's not one way. There's lots of different tools out there, and we have more access to them than ever before. And that's such a beautiful place to be in while there's so many challenging things happening in our world. So Yes, thanks. Thank you for this offering. I want to go back to, so you were talking about what authenticity and integrity. So what is real, what is true?
Mhm.
And I'm curious, when we think about living our most radiant life, how you see doing that amidst so many other perceptions of what is real and true,
Mm.
when maybe it doesn't align with other people in our lives. And
Yeah, so that's where true north comes in. We all
yeah.
have our own inner compass. And depending on how authentically and with how much integrity we're each living, our true north compass may be, it may be spinning or it may be pointing direct. And it really depends how much we're allowing our internal state of being to be affected by these larger influences and energetics outside of us, many of which probably don't align with your personal true north. So I think there's a really strong process of discernment in this work
Mm.
where you start to really learn, this is me and this is my edge. This is where I end and everyone else begins. And you may notice as you start exploring that territory that there are certain people who have a greater influence on you, or certain political affiliations, as we're seeing right now in our today's election day. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot of that. But there are certain people who can touch and impact you more profoundly than others, and sometimes that's for the benefit of your true north because they remind you of who you are, what your value system is, what really matters to you, and that's aligned community and aligned relationships. And oftentimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you have relationships with people, close people in your family or friends that have been in your life forever, or a boss that you feel really obligated to please. And those people might be directing you away, diverting you from your true north with the obligation, the responsibility, or the pressures that feel inauthentic and misaligned. So that's where the discernment comes in, is how influenceable are you by the positive and the negative forces around you, and how clear are you about where those influences are coming from and where they end and where you begin. The closer you get to yourself in any moment and your true experience of the moment, the more you'll be able to operate in a way that has that authentic integrity and starts to attract more of the same from aligned people and experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And then it seems like if we are each in our authenticity, in our integrity, that it does eventually allow for greater connectivity. Like there's so much divisiveness in our world right now. And so it seems like there's kind of this cyclical opportunity here of, like, if we can come into ourselves and really honor who we are, what our true north is, what we are on a path for in this lifetime, then it allows us to connect in ways that are rooted in that authenticity and integrity, instead of being like, nope, nope, here's my boundary, like, stay away, right? It seems like there's like this next layer after that is established, once
Mhm.
you are in your radiant life, right? But
Yes. Yes, clarity attracts more clarity, and confusion attracts more confusion. So if you're walking in the fog and you don't know what's real or true for you, you're going to be very influenceable, and you're going to attract people who appreciate how small and confused you feel and benefit from it. Whereas if you take the time and space to access your own inner compass and figure out your own clarity, you're going to be much more difficult to manipulate, much more difficult to sway and kind of convince into things that your true north says no to, and much less likely to have relationships that drain and deplete you rather than nourishing and sustaining you. So I think if you can think of it as simply as clarity and fogginess, which I know you talk about a lot in Ayurveda in the body, just following that clarity as the true north compass.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, there's so much with, yeah, the gunas, the qualities, also that principle that like increases like. So choose what you're increasing, right? And part of it, behavioral science shows us that our behaviors are very impacted by the people that we interact with the most. Our habits derive from that. So if we can consciously be like, oh, I want habits like this, let me be around these people that do that, right? Or put yourself in a community, or have a book club that's reading a book, right? It's like we're all looking at this, right? That then puts you in the conversation with other people that are on that same page, that then helps support. You don't have to rely on your own willpower, basically.
Right. Absolutely. It becomes a net that holds you.
Yeah.
And you can sometimes, stand tall in that net and guide it. And other times you can lay back and let it carry you and let it support you. That's the
Yes.
benefit of aligned community.
Yes. Yay for aligned community. There's a couple things that I wanted to ask you to speak about that are part of this book. One is about, if you could talk a little bit more about the stories that we tell ourselves. I know this is the title of a chapter, and I'm wondering if you can just share a little bit more about the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes, that's chapter 7. It's about what therapists call narratives. And they're just the stories we tell ourselves about what's happening in our life and who we are in this experience. These can be related to core beliefs and intrinsic value systems that were instilled a really long time ago without our conscious awareness or even consent. And people notice narratives like a loop in their mind, and it's usually related to self-worth, belonging, life being hard, right? These narratives that are like, oh, I'll never get anywhere because women in my family never have, and so I never will either. Or I'll never be able to feel healthy in my body. I can't trust my body. And they're not conscious. They become this sort of background noise, and it guides our behaviors. When you don't trust your body and you don't believe you'll ever feel healthy, you're much less likely to make healthy choices for your body and send the inner love and compassion to your body that strengthens it and sustains it. So once you start to become observant of what your narratives are and how they're functioning and whether they're negative or not in your life, then you start to regain the power to change them if you want to. And so, with the example about the body, it might be as simple as just saying, well, actually, in this moment, I'm feeling pretty good. I don't have pain anywhere. Thank you, body. Thanks for taking care of me in this moment. And just little changes like that. It doesn't take a huge commitment of time or energy just to reflect. Oh, my narrative's not really true. And once we realize that the things we believe and the things we think aren't always based on reality, in fact, oftentimes they're not, then we get to play and we realize that we live in a creative universe and we are matter, and we are able to shift and change and alter our composition all the way down to our cellular level, which I talk a lot about in chapter 6, which is about epigenetics and inherited family trauma. So we have so much capacity to shift ourselves. It starts with the way that we observe our thoughts.
I love that. Yes. Yeah, we do a lot with what we call stuck stories in the Vitality Circle. Just recognizing, like, what are these things that we've been believing that maybe aren't true, maybe don't serve us, maybe we could replace with a different, more empowering story, and that helps us connect with that authenticity too.
And
So
maybe they were true at some point. That's the
right.
thing too, is it might have been really adaptive for you to think that way before. It might have saved your life to think that way before, but you're not that old version of you anymore. So we need to update our narratives just like we update our iPhone.
Right. Yeah. And that we can give ourselves permission to be many different people in a lifetime,
Yes.
that we don't have to hold ourselves or other people prisoner to who we've been in the past, that can all evolve. Trauma is another thing that I feel like is all over everywhere. It's like heal trauma, like here's a new system, or, recognize your trauma. And I think at this point, all of us have have been well, I would say in this community, we could say understand that all of us experience trauma to greater or lesser degrees. How do you see that? And I know it's something that it's something that you talk about in this book, is to really be able to facilitate healing through your processes.
Yeah.
What do you have to share about that in a culture where it's such a buzzword right now?
So I think about trauma as anything that derails you from your normal functioning and stability. And different scientists talk about trauma as big T trauma and little t trauma, where the little t traumas are the things that aren't hugely significant, like being in a massive accident or having the death of a loved one, but they're significant enough and they do hurt and they do kind of get you hooked. And if you have enough little t traumas, over time, like if you're in a relationship with a toxic person and they keep doing microaggressions, over time, a little t trauma can become a big T trauma that is a massive relational wound, for example. So I don't like to delineate between some trauma being worse and more profound than other trauma. I think pain is pain and pain is subjective. And so I really take a perspective of honoring when it comes to trauma and validating for people that, yes, what happened to you was real and it hurt and it needs you to heal it and it needs attendance to it. So in the book, I talk about a lot of different modalities for working with trauma, everything from brain sciences and polyvagal theory, which is a really amazing understanding of the nervous system, all the way towards the power of creativity and art therapy to work with trauma and heal the brain. And I like to talk about a specific therapeutic approach called internal family systems therapy, which is parts work or parts psychology, where you get to really get to know and love the parts of you that are hurt and the parts of you that are protecting you from feeling too much instability and integrating all of them back into a healthy system. So trauma is a big conversation and it's layers and layers deep. And I think the book takes you through all those layers, but also I really encourage people, this is a good place for therapy too, to work with trauma, because sometimes it's about processing it and digesting and working through it over time with safe people. And that's another place where aligned community is important. And your therapist can be part of your aligned community, really having that felt sense of safety, because you can't heal unless you're feeling safe. So bringing that into your mind and your body and your heart all the time while you're engaging the trauma work is important.
Yeah, that's great. I'm very excited to read. Um, when we look at the healing process and offering tools, were there any things that you were nervous about putting in this book, or that called you to kind of like be like, I'm going to be really brave here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this book is not just a cold, lifeless clinician's guide. This is a human offering and it sources from my clinical experience, but it also really sources from my personal experience and my humble path of my own trauma healing, my own inner work that I've been doing for over 25 years, really deep, deep healing work. So I am pretty vulnerable in this book. I share some of the learnings that I've come across, some of the mistakes I've made, and how I rectified them. I talk about some of the traumas that I've lived through and how I've worked with them. And everything that I talk about in this book is kind of an invitation towards something that I've already practiced and learned myself. I don't believe in asking people to do anything that I haven't already vetted and worked really hard to understand and prove its efficacy in my own life. So if you read this book, you're going to learn a little bit about me as a human being and how walking this journey is complex for all of us, even those of us who are trained clinicians. We're all human. And so I think that was vulnerable for me.
Yeah, I imagine. And publishing a book and having it go out into the world. It's like having an art show too, right? Like you put these pieces on a pedestal or on the wall and you're like, people are going to look at this and like relate to it from wherever they are, and so you release that right,
Yes,
to the
and
world.
this is me walking my talk with authenticity. I'm saying, "This is real.
Mm,
This is me in this moment, and what I'm sharing with you isn't just a case study I've made up. It's real, and it
yeah.
has the integrity of being true also." And so, I'm practicing what I'm teaching you even in the writing itself.
Mm, I love that. And I think that's part of the transformation that we're in
Mhm.
as a culture right now, right? Is that we take each other off pedestals and we say we're real people, you know. I'm constantly learning from Ayurveda and, you know, learning how to work with the next layer of my own healing. You know, you're doing the same in what you're doing, and so the people that work with us don't get to be like, oh, you have it all figured out, right?
Absolutely
Like,
not.
no, we're on the journey too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it feels different for people when they're working with someone or when they're reading a book written by someone who's teaching from experience rather than just from theory alone. It feels different. It has that authentic resonance to it where it makes you want to lean in, and it helps with understanding the trust in order to do this work, that this is not just coming from a cold place. This is coming from a warm human place.
Yes. Yes. So true. Will you talk a little bit? We're almost out of time, about creativity in this role of, or in living a radiant life.
Yes, I think creativity is part of what makes a radiant life possible. If it's a banana bread you're trying to make, this is your one of your main ingredients, creativity, because we have the drive to be creative in our DNA. And we know this because we look back in time and we see that our earliest ancestors created things, and they had drumming circles, and they used their voices, and they used their hands, and they sculpted bones and wood. So creativity is, it's a flow of energy that wants to move through us. And part of our society problem is that creativity is really stunted and judged, where it's only based on the binary of good and bad. If you want to frame something, then it's a good piece of art, rather than creating for the sake of creativity and for expression. And when we move emotion through us, whether it's cathartic or the sublimation of something sort of transforming into its healthier version, we participate in clearing for our bodies and our minds and our souls. And I think in order to bring in new material, we have to clear the old material. So creativity sort of helps in every phase of that process.
Absolutely. Amen. I feel so strongly about that too, that it's such a innate part of being human.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say about this book and what
I'm
you're
just so I'm just so excited for this book to be available. I hope that it ripples out into the world and makes an impact in a society of deeply hurting people and societies, communities, cultures. I just send this book out there with all my love wrapped around it and infused within it. And I hope it's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for creating it and offering it and putting your skills out into the world in a way that people anywhere can find and connect with. Um, so, if people want to get this book, this beautiful book, look at it, yay! Where can they do that?
It's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, everywhere online where books are sold. You can also get it at my publisher's website, Roman and Littlefield. The website is roman.com. And I have a discount code for 30% off. Do you want me to say that here, or do you want to
Sure.
just show notes?
Why don't you say it and then I'll put it in the notes as well.
Okay, so the website is ROWMAN, Roman.com. Then you can search up the Radiant Life Project, and at checkout, put in RLFANDF 30. RLF and F 30, and you will get 30% off. And I hope that makes it accessible for people who feel like it's cost prohibitive. And I hope you love it.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's great to hear you share about this book. I cannot wait to read it myself. And I know it's going to be such a gift and helpful tools for so many people. May we all live radiant lives. Yay.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. All the love.
Thank you. Take care.